This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to After Dark with Rob and Andrew on America Out Loud, available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, or Apple Podcasts. Or as always, you can head on over to the website, americaoutloud.com, and check out the articles and podcasts. And please share those on social media. Tonight we have on Peter Boykin, who is going to be running for District 58 in North Carolina, a congressional seat. He's already ran before. We're looking forward to hear from that. And he is also the founder of Gays for Trump. So we're going to have a lot to talk to Peter about. How are you doing thus far tonight, Rob?
I am doing just grand. I took my healthy cell, and it has me energized, better than energized. I am ready to rock and roll. And we've been talking about healthy cell quite a bit here on our show, Andrew. And a lot of people have been asking, what is healthy cell? How do I find out about healthy cell? What do I need to do? And I would say go to the website, healthycell.com. And if you use the code OUTLOUD, you'll get 20% off your first order. It's a great product. I myself have problems taking vitamins. This is a liquid concentrated type vitamin. You just pop open the top, this little packet, zoom it down, and wham, you're ready to go. And I gotta say, there are a lot of people that are out there right now, mainly Joe Biden, whom I would definitely recommend needs to take some healthy cell for his cognitive deficits. And he has a lot of them. I mean, I don't know if he's going or coming sometime. But, you know, it's up to old Joe if he wants to reach out to us or do his own research and try healthy cell. Now, going back to our guest tonight, Peter Boykin. I'm excited to have Peter on tonight because, as we know, there is the narrative from the left that gays don't support Trump, that Trump's base, well, not just support Trump, but the the Republican Party. They don't support the Republican Party or conservative ideas. How can they? The same thing goes for blacks or Latinos, Hispanics. Oh, they don't support the conservative party because they're too racist or homophobic, they're this and they're that, and you hear that nonstop. But as you know, Andrew, we have had many blacks and Latinos and gays to come on the show. And from what I've seen, they are some of the biggest Trump supporters. Ricky Rebel came on, and he was talking about his support for conservatives and President Trump. He even went as far as to record a song and to wear an outfit at one of the award shows professing his support for conservatism and President Trump. I mean, you can't get that much better than that showing who you support. But that narrative that's out there that's pervasive, that's controlled by the media and big tech, that it can't be. Whereas we have the Peter Boykins that are out there, that their voices are oftentimes silenced, suppressed. They don't want them out there. They don't want them out front because they want to control, they being the liberal media, want to control the narrative and have individuals to think that President Trump, the Republican Party, they're against gays. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, why is he constantly saying President Trump? Well, I think it's obvious. I know that President Biden is in the White House. I don't believe that Trump is going to come up in August and he's going to be stored into the White House. No, I think 2024, that's when President Trump will come forward. But that being said, when you see the narrative that's out there, created by the fake news, supported by the Democrats, as to who Republicans or conservatives supports, it's mind-boggling. So we've got to get out there and we've got to show them that this is not who we are at all. It is a big tent, the Republican Party, and everyone is welcome. Because I would venture to say the racism that the left is constantly talking about, the systemic racism, is coming from the left. They're the ones who are opening their eyes and realizing, hey, we better get in front of this because we've been discriminating against these minorities for far too long. They control the narrative. They control Hollywood. And you look back a couple of years ago, or a decade ago, whenever they would put an image of any of these minorities, black, Hispanics, or gays, there were always negative images, especially for gays. The images were the crazy gay man, the crazy gay woman. who is wrestling with their identity. They're going to go and kill the people. Basic Instinct comes to mind. It's a popular movie, but the person in the movie was deranged. Who made that movie? It came from the left. So now they're trying to jump in front of it again, hopscotch, and say, oh, we support these individuals. It's the right that don't support them. I beg to differ. Look at the images of blacks and Hispanics. The black thug, the Hispanic macho man. They were always out to harm the white person. They couldn't obey the law. Now they want to try and change the narrative and say, oh, it's not us, but it was you. You're the ones who control Hollywood. You control the stories that are out there. So when we have a Peter Boykin who comes forward and says, I'm running for office, and this is the platform that I'm on, they're shocked. And they want to start throwing everything at him to keep his voice silent. And they're, oh, he's crazy. He's this. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's been brainwashed. No, you guys are brainwashed. And now he's coming forward with the true party platforming, saying, this is who I am. We're not looking at identity politics. I'm looking at the policy. Because as Ricky Rebel said, it's not about what a person is doing in their bedroom. Everyone can identify with jobs, border control. Who can identify with that? So when I hear all these narratives that are being spawned out there by the left, I'm like, no. No, no, no. So, without further ado, let's bring on Peter Boykin and let's let him talk. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well.
So, Peter, what did you think of my opening and how the left has tried to, or not tried, but are controlling the narrative as to who supports whom? And that if you're gay, you better not be a conservative because they hate you.
Well, as we go into the first opening, just want to correct one thing. 2018, I ran for District 58. That was a test run. I'm actually running for US Congress right now. I'm in the big leagues with the federal Congress.
Awesome.
It's out there. Anything they could have used against me was out there, and anything they try to bring up now, it's old news. So yeah, the narrative, always talking about identity politics, you know, including in our Republican Party, I always find it strange where I get thrown the whole why you got to tell yourself you're gay kind of thing. But I always got to tell, I even have to tell my own party, it's like you have no problem talking about how you support blacks and whites and Latinos and Mexicans and everything under the sun, but then when all of a sudden I say I'm the gay Trump support group, all of a sudden it's identity politics. I'm like, how's that any different? You should be pandering to every group because it's all demographics. And the gay demographic, LGBTQ, whatever, unless I'm telling you I'm gay, I've been told I don't come off as, gay. You're not going to really know. And so we have to identify. And we're not really identifying to, say, the Republicans for them to know. The point is, when we say we're gays for Trump or we're the gay right or whatever, we're trying to indicate to other LGBT people that, hey, there is a group for you and we need you over here to our group. So that's why we're not just Americans for Trump. We are gays for Trump for a reason, because we're trying to build our group. We're trying to pull gays away from the extremists. Like Brandon Strzok was trying to get people to walk away from the extremism of the left. So it's very important that we identify that being gay and male is a part of who I am, but it's not everything of who I am, and it's not what I'm going to be running my campaign on. I'm not going to say, hey, elect me because I'm a gay Republican. Honestly, if that's the only reason you're going to elect me, I probably don't want your vote. I would rather you look at some of the things that I'm interested in, some of the changes that I want to do, and the fact that I'm not swamp, I'm really grassroots, and I absolutely want to be the ear. I've told people, I am the ear of the government. I am the voice of the people, and I'm the hand of action. So my point is to really fight the swamp and be an everyday citizen. I've learned I've had the experiences of living and working jobs and struggling like everybody else. So I'm more in tune with what the Republican Party is now than the old school, establishment that nobody really wants anymore.
And you're right, it is the old school establishment. And just going back to what you said as far as identifying, because that's unique. No one has ever come on to say anything like that. But as you said, you want it out there. You want people to know, okay, yes, I'm gay. I'm not running on that platform, but in order to peel away from the Democrats. And I say that that's unique and it's interesting because I've said so many times on the show that Republicans shy away from cultural issues. They shy away from it. They don't want to talk about it because it makes them uncomfortable. Fine. Who cares if it makes you uncomfortable? We have to have those conversations. And like you said, I want the folks to know, hey, I'm gay, but I'm not just running because I am gay. There are the party platforms that I identify with. But in order to peel those people away from the Democrats and let them know there is a safe place for you here, it just goes back to when you look at Black and Hispanics, they're saying the exact same thing. We don't want you to send in our communities a white man to say, vote for us. We want you to send a Black man or a Hispanic man. Now, some people would say, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, no, it does matter because you want them to know there is a place for you in this party. Unlike the Democrats who will play it to the hilt. I mean, they use it as a party platform. Hey, here's our token Black man. You see him over here, you should be here too. And as Joe Biden said so eloquently, or not eloquently, if you're not voting for me, you ain't Black. Like, what? No, that's true pandering.
That would have destroyed a Republican. That would have destroyed a Republican if he had said something like that. Imagine Trump saying, "You ain't vote. You're not white if you don't vote for me. I'm Trump."
Right. It would have destroyed, but they get away with it because they're comfortable talking about those issues, and Republicans and conservatives have got to do the same thing. So tell me, Peter, what are your platforms? Let the folks know what you identify with and what you're doing in North Carolina.
Well, I mean, a lot of times I can identify with a lot of other platforms that everybody else runs on, the pro-First Amendment, pro-Second Amendment, anti-abortion, small government and things like that. But that's what everybody pretty much Republicans identify. But I like to run more on the fact that I'm for human rights, which also involves, gay rights. I am for police reform, not taking money away, because you can't make a better police force if you take money away. But there is some reform that needs to be done. And there are great cops out there, but we all know that some people, one person, 1 out of 100, makes the rest spoil. It's like, what was it, Donald Trump Jr. a long time ago said, when there's a bag of Skittles out there and one of them is poison, would you want to still eat the bag of Skittles? So it just takes one bad cop out there to soil the whole, representation of the police force. So there needs to be police reform, but that's giving actually more money to the police department to do it proper, to train people properly, to make sure that there is proper justice. I do also believe, of course, not just the Second Amendment. I do think that people need to know, like the Constitution assumed, they assumed in the Constitution when they said people have the right to bear arms. Back then, everybody was educated on how to use a firearm. People knew when to draw your weapon. People knew how to use it for protection. They knew how to hunt with it. They respected that. I would say we need to go back to that. People need to have more sense on how to use the gun, how to clean a gun, when and when not to bring it out, how to store it properly. So gun safety is very much important. I would say the way to path to get rid of abortion is to start limiting, not understanding we can't get rid of abortion all at one time. The best thing we could do is try to get it back to its original definition was, very quickly, early term, only available, and it should be on a case-by-case basis. It should no longer be used as a contraceptive, we shouldn't be paying for it. We have to reduce the amount of abortions out there. We have to understand that sometimes we can't just get rid of it. And the more we keep just saying it's all or nothing, there's more and more babies being, basically murdered every year. One of the biggest things going on right now is the critical race theory. People need to understand that racism actually isn't the biggest issue. Generalization is the issue. Stereotyping. When you stereotype all gays, like right now, the Republicans, they might say that they don't feel comfortable talking about the gays, but yet you do hear, even during Pride Month, the griping and complaining about the gays and the extremism, and they generalize all the gays into one category. A lot of people generalize all the blacks into one category, or all the Latinos into one category. That's the true issue, is generalization. We're fighting a cultural war, which is not a race war, it's not a religious war, it's a cultural war. And we have to fight against people who don't like great society and don't like just America in general. And that doesn't matter with their race, creed, religion, etc. Bad people of any color or any race or any sexuality, they don't fit with the rest of society. But as a white person, I can't go into a black crowd and say, hey, you need to calm things down. Or as a straight person going into a gay community, they can't say you can't calm that down. We do have to find civil leaders. I hate to use the word community organizers or whatever people want to say. That's a leftist term they always used. But you have to go into the community, and we have to get the community to understand that we need to start going into our own communities and saying, no, this is wrong. This goes against the rest of society. This is what you're doing is bad. It's corrupting us all. And we have to recognize that as an issue in all race, creeds, colors, religions, and everything. That nobody's perfect. Nobody's better than anybody else. There's no supremacy of color. There's no supremacy of sexuality. We all have issues. And people also need to understand the right and the left have issues. And for me, the biggest thing that I want to run on is the fact that I want as much possible to work with both sides and get both sides to work together for the betterment of America. Because this polarization that we've been going through for decades now is not getting us anywhere. We are now playing a game where we have both sides that used to play the same, both plays baseball. Well, now one plays baseball and one plays soccer. Nobody plays the same game anymore, but everybody wants to win, and nobody can realize, hey, I might be wrong about this. Hey, you might be right. Let's work together. So, call me radical on that, but that keeps me more moderate, kind of, more middle ground. Actually, the Republicans are becoming more to the middle. Unfortunately, the Democrats have been going further to the left, which is why they always call every Republican a far right. We're not actually far right. We're actually closer to the middle, and they've gone so far left, it's pathetic. It's extreme. And I've always said I fight extremism on both ends, period.
You're right. They have gone completely to the left, and you wouldn't be able to identify with them or say who they are. Would you say that Republicans have given up so much ground when it comes to the cultural war?
I think Republicans, unfortunately, the mainstream Republicans, they've gotten very comfortable with their a lot of the Republicans, because on the right there are so many different factions, and there's so much infighting. But the problem is that there's so many people who remain silent. I used to go and speak at city council, and I would beg people to go to city council, and speak. And it's retirees and people who have nothing to lose that could have done it, but they wouldn't. And so they've sat back and let the left, they'll continue. The left will keep fighting. They might want 100% of it, and if they get 10% this year, they'll get the next 10%, and they'll keep going and keep going and keep going until they've got it all. And they're always going to be persistent. And the Republican Party needs to understand that the reason why we don't have Donald Trump in the White House right now is what I kept screaming back in 2018 is you got Trump in there. He's one man. He can't do it all. He needs support. And then they gave up. They always give up in the midterms. This actually might be the reverse of that. This is an important midterm that the Republicans need to get off their ass. Apologize, but they need to get off of it, and they need to get up, and they need to fight hard. And if you want Donald Trump to even think about running in 2024, he's not going to run and we don't win the House and we don't win the Senate, or at least have a majority back again, because there's going to be no reason for him to run, because you know what they'll do. They'll start trying to impeach. They'll start doing this gate and that gate against him like they did in the last 2 years of his first term. If he has no support and it's just him, he's not going to be able to get what he needs done. He got so much done in the first 2 years, and then it was just crap for the last 2 years because he had no support. And that came from the laziness of the Republican Party. And I'm going to say it because somebody needs to say it. Somebody needs to say the Republican Party has gotten lazy on a lot of subjects and giving it up, and they need to understand. Even Donald Trump Jr. kind of taught me this, because the day after the midterms, he said, and I'm like, oh, we'll get a small break. He's like, and now starts the campaign of 2020. He said it the day after. I'm like, oh crap, there is no break. There really is no break. It's always a battle. It's always a battle. And sometimes we win, and sometimes we lose, and sometimes we compromise. And honestly, that's what ambassadorship is about. Compromise. That's why we do meet with other nations. Compromise. So if we can compromise with other nations, I think the right and left sometimes can actually compromise for the betterment of America.
Yeah, that's such a good point, and these midterms are so important, as you mentioned. Tell us about who you are running against there in North Carolina in your campaign.
Well, currently there's only one person who has identified themselves. He first said he was going to run against the established Republican in District 5, Virginia Fox, but when Ted Budd, my congressperson, decided to run for senator against Mark Walker, who's also been my congressperson, it opened up District 13. Now, the issue with that is the census will change things again, and because of everything, we won't know exactly the specific district. They might even change the number because we added a 14th district. We won't know until September. We've got to file in December, and then the primary is in March. But for now, declared is myself and another person called Bo Hines. Now, Bo Hines, I don't know much about him other than he has, and I'm not the type of person that likes to talk bad about somebody, but doing basic research, he is youthful, right off the press. He's going to school to be a lawyer. He went to Yale. He was a football player. His family's very affluent. He's had 58 donors that have donated the max. So right now he says he's the grassroots, but he's giving off the AstroTurf vibe, and everything seems to be bought and paid for. He's not really communicating with the public. He's not even, you don't legally have to live in the area you run, but he's not even in this area at all. I know these people. I used to work for Uber, and I used to drive a lot of people. Over 10,000 some people in the last so many years that I've drove around town. I've delivered food to people. I've taken people to their appointments. I've seen people from all walks of life. I've driven up and down North Carolina and met so many different people over the years that I have a better ear to what's actually going on in the community. And I don't think that right now having a young, inexperienced individual that basically screams swamp, screams rich, affluent, I don't have a job, I've never had a job kind of, affluence is what the Republicans kind of want right now. The Republicans, for now, are worried about if their votes counting, and they're also worrying about people who actually will listen to them and want to be a representative, and that's who I'm planning on being. Now, the field might grow. I don't know who else might step in the ring. It could grow up to 20 people. It's an open region. But my whole point is I'm putting my name out there. I'm completely grassroots. I don't have $150,000 like my opponent has in a growing war chest. But I will put out billboards. I will get out as much as I can. I will ask for small donations. I will make sure that if I do take any money from larger groups or PACs, that they identify with something that I agree with, because I won't take money just to get money. I'm not here to make money off of it. I'm not here to get famous off of it. I am here because I have lost my jobs over the years. I have been canceled cultured from social media as much as they can do, and I've only been able to kind of sneak my way back into most social media because of my degrees and everything. And my goal is to do what I can to bring my knowledge of technology to America, because we don't need any more lawyers, that's for sure. You know, opponents and lawyers are going to be a lawyer. We need more technological people who can fight against big bad social media, people who can help us not go through this energy crisis of being shut down by a Russian hack, you know, which I could have, honestly, I can maneuver around that hack in 30 minutes. If it would have just gave me like maybe a couple of Bitcoins, I could have did it. Actually, I would have did it for free. You know, honestly, right. It's not, I can't understand how they paid a ransom like that. That's a ransomware, which is actually very easy to get around hack, and it shows that their infrastructure of their company wasn't done proper. There's so many different ways. It's irritating that our infrastructure for technology and our communication systems can go down so easily. We don't even have copper wire anymore. You don't even have traditional phones anymore. If the cell phone networks go down or the power go down, the grid goes down, we have no actual way to communicate with each other. Nobody knows Morse code. I don't know Morse code, but hell, it doesn't matter because there's no wires to click it on.
Let me just add this. What you're saying is so true. We do need to diversify the knowledge base that's on the Hill. I mean, we have enough. The attorneys and the lawyers are good, but we need to diversify so that we can tackle issues like big tech and what they're doing, because a lot of the folks on the Hill don't understand it. But I wanted to just backtrack to something that you said, your opponent. Very little experience. But as we know, it doesn't matter when it comes to the Democrats. They would get the most least experienced person. Look at Alexandria Cortez, or whatever her name is, AOC, whatever she calls herself. Zero experience. However, they have her out there as a subject matter expert. She's always thrown out there. She's always given the mic. Why? Well, because she has a lot of followers on social media. And they want us to believe that social media is the universe. Granted, there's a lot of power out there and you reach a lot of people. Look at President Trump. He reached a lot of people. But this woman knows absolutely nothing. You get her before someone who knows the issues and who can debate the issues, and she will falter. This happened to her back in 2018, and the media covered for her. I want her to have a debate of substance. I want someone to go against her. Now, of course, if that were to happen, they'll come up with all these isms. Oh, genderism. They're trying to put her down. Oh, womanism. They're trying to put her down. No, she doesn't know anything.
We've actually had a run-in before. Well,
that's good.
People came up with her. It might be a surprise, but AOC would actually be a target for me to actually pull in, because I would actually want a nonpartisan committee, and I would pull somebody like AOC and Marjorie Taylor and other people and say, we need to have a conference, because there is some ideas that you might actually, because even with AOC not being a lawyer and stuff like that, there's probably some things that she might be good at. Like even the Green New Deal was horrible, but at the same time, I am for diversification of our energy grid. And
I am just diversification of it. All due respect, I wouldn't call her in on anything. In my opinion,
well,
she is clueless. I'm serious, and I'm going to use their playbook. She is useless. Marjorie Taylor Greene, yes, I would call her in, but AOC, I have had enough of her and her Instagram, whatever she says, it makes absolutely no sense.
Could you imagine
Now,
if I was able to pull her to our side? Could you imagine? Because
oh God, I don't even want to think about that.
I think she's actually, I think she can be manipulated or pulled or made
let me
to
say
walk
this.
away.
I know that some on the right have said, Laura Ingraham being one of them, has said that she's not a dumb woman. She's smart because look at what the capital that she has managed to gain, and having these seasoned politicians afraid of her, and that's because of social media.
Ted Cruz worked
That being
with her,
said,
actually. Ted Cruz
I remember.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't think that I could be as magnanimous because I see her and I just see 0, 0, 0. But back to my point, as far as candidates not having anything behind them, the Democrats will put them out there. So let's look at 2022 and what you said. If we can't win 2022, there will be no hope for us in 2024, especially in the way of Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Now, 2022 will be extremely interesting because we know that if the Democrats cheated once, they will cheat again. It looks as if though we have the momentum, especially when it comes to gun control, law enforcement, and everything that they're throwing, the socialist agenda, the communist agenda. Never in a million years, I'm sure that a lot of people would have expected us to be where we are now, tearing down our history, tearing down what makes us America, and people openly saying they don't like the country, they don't like the flag. They've said it in the past, but now even more so, making our children little activists, teaching the stuff in school. And I heard someone say the other night about CRT, simply because we're saying don't teach it into schools, don't think that they won't try to enter it in by another avenue and call it something different, because that's how they work. We have to get, absolutely, we have to get rid of the people that are there with that mindset. You look at our school system, look at our universities, a majority of the people there are from the left. The right has just given up. They've conceded that ground. But we have got to go out and we have got to start recruiting and telling people these jobs are honorable. Like you said, bringing people on the Hill that have the background, that knows technology. We have got to cover the bases. We're behind. And the only way we're going to get ahead is we start recruiting and looking at other people other than lawyers, other than doctors, looking at people in these specialized fields and say, come here, be a teacher, do this and do that. It can be done. We can't just sit there and say, vote for me because I have the conservative ideas and I have the platform. What about the people that are out there? Go into those communities and pull those people out and say, have you thought about this? And as I said on one of our shows, in addition to that, and a lot of people will push back on this, is to get our conservatives to move to those blue states or start recruiting in those blue states and raise them up. That is what Democrats do. They're pushing people to Florida. They're pushing people to Texas. They've messed up their states and cities. So now they're going to, let's get up and let's go to the red states because they're managed so well. And once they get there, they'll tell a friend, the friend will come, their families will come. The next thing you know, you have a huge neighborhood and then a huge voting block. And then they start to chip away our values, making the state purple and then blue. Republicans, conservatives have got to wake up.
You got to start working with those people. We do have that goal. They're coming over to our areas now, and we have to show them, hey, the reason why when they look and they're around like, oh my God, everything's so much nicer and less crime and stuff. And you say there's a reason, because Republican ideals and then things work, and we have to start educating. We can change people's minds, at least we could get them more moderate, if anything. There is specific issues, a lot of people who are only on the left because of the abortion issue, or some people are only on the left because of the gay issue. For years, it used to be, for me, I'm like, oh, the Democrats are so good on the gay issues, but the Republicans are anti-abortion. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? But then it got to the point where I never was a registered Democrat, but when I realized that the Democrats just was using people and just really nasty to their own people if you didn't vote the way they wanted you to vote, I was like, I'm out. I'm not voting for any Democrats anymore, you know? I'm like, no, because y'all, I know how you are, you know, and there's a few rare exceptions out there who might as well be Republicans. You have to understand there's some of these areas that are just always Democrat, but there's going to be somebody who's moderate. So I've always said, people, if you live in an area that's super Democrat and you can't immediately get a Republican candidate in there, you could at least try to work toward a Democrat who is as far as right as you can get. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the best. Just try to get rid of any candidate who's far left. You know, fight hard, keep fighting, and don't give up. A lot of Republicans give up in the areas. They're afraid. And it does get worse right now with social media cutting you off and businesses firing people once they find out you're at a Trump rally or something. And those rules need to be put in place. I would say that that honestly, I've been told before that the whole Title VII that, you know, supposed to protect sexuality and race and stuff, it also says creed. And I've actually been told creed is not just religion. Creed is your belief standards and your moral standards, which is also kind of like your political standards. So creed should actually protect your political beliefs. And so that should be protected from being fired or let go to your political beliefs. The other issue I would say that's big is we need to make sure that we should have learned this back in 2000 with the whole Chad issue with, you know, George Bush and Al Gore, you know, and it could have went the other way. But elections, especially federal elections for the president, to me, I would make presidential elections done in a separate booth, guarded by the National Guard, done in a different process, making sure there's no ballots out on the streets to be burned up or destroyed, that presidential election should be protected, and every presidential election should be audited. And there should be a bureau that their job is to audit every single presidential election, no matter which way it goes, to ensure that our presidential system of electing our president is always secured. Now, the Constitution, it says that the states have the rights to do their elections for their federal officers. Well, the Supreme, the state, going to the Congress. But the presidential, that affects all the states. And if that's not done right, it's unfair if one state like Arizona or Georgia allows this and that, and then that president gets the points, but it affects all the other states because there's cheating and fraud. And I'm getting tired of people saying the unfounded fraud, unfounded bullcrap. We shouldn't have to be fighting as much as we are to get a proper audit. And it should be done by a federal audit. The states should audit and the federal should audit. And it should be automatically done. Because if you've seen in every other country in the world, as soon as the election system breaks down to the point where people don't believe their vote is being heard, you get things 10 times as worse as January 6th, which was a cakewalk compared to other countries. Period. So we have to protect our presidential voting system now and before the next election and continuously, no matter who wins.
Well said, Peter, and I feel that so many Americans feel the same way. If you want to support Peter, you can go to BoykinForCongress.com and check out his website and support him on there. You were tuned in to After Dark with Rob and Andrew, available on America Out Loud via iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or download the America Out Loud app to keep track of all of the great shows. We will be back with more on After Dark with Rob and Andrew.
The recording has stopped.
Cool. Great first
show.
half.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we will get this all in and edited, and then once we run it, we'll let you know, Peter. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, have a good one.
Thanks, Peter. You as well.